Hello! This is Way of Weinstein, live from the financial district of New York City. However you may be watching, Facebook Live, YouTube, welcome. Curb Your Enthusiasm, Season 9, Episode 4, Running with the Bulls. Okay, so obviously you can tell I'm in a much better mood than last night's Way of Weinstein, which that was a little too somber. You know what? I'm in a much better now. Let's talk some Curb. Okay, so episode starts with Larry and his therapist, who's played by the fantastic actor Bryan Cranston, who you know from Breaking Bad, Malcolm in the Middle, and Dr. Tim Whatley from Seinfeld. So it was nice to see, always great to see a Seinfeld actor on Curb and someone of such fantastic talent of Bryan Cranston. So he's talking about this dream he has about 71 gorgeous virgins and being fixated that there's not 72. Which, that's Larry. Even when something's great, he can't even focus on like the positive side of it. And he complains about the chair. He's got this fantastic chair that you put in your house, and the other chair which you can't get comfortable in at all. Which chairs matter. Chairs definitely matter, and checking his watch, and saying, at the thought, well, that's really the only reason he's there, and talking about what are you doing for the weekend? Oh, he's into truffles. There, you into truffles? Not into truffles. So then a large part is at this art exhibit for Richard Lewis, and we see all these paintings that Richard has done, and Jeff's there, and they're thinking, I don't get it, which, when I see art, I don't get it. So I related to that, and for seeing like what Richard was wearing, I thought it was kind of like something that Michael Jackson would wear, like in the Little Drummer's Boy's Funeral. I thought that was funny. And the self-portrait saying, yeah, that was like 20 years ago. If Larry had a self-portrait, he would have some hair. And so Jeff's talking about like going to these open houses to have affairs where it's essentially a date where he doesn't have to pay anything, and if he wants another one, he can just say he wants to look at another house, and yeah, I was really interesting, but I wonder like why doesn't he just get a divorce then? Because you pretty much seen almost everyone in the show get a divorce. Larry, Funk, Ted. I mean, maybe they're just not having him get divorced, so pretty much everyone isn't divorced. I don't know, whatever. It's just the thought I had. And then, so we find out that this therapist, Cheryl turned him on to that they share the therapist, and they have an early reservation for like a 3:30 dinner reservation, which that's more lunch, which I don't know, that's odd. I found that odd. And unfortunately we find that Funkhauser's nephew died following the prostitute from the previous episode, and got trampled by trying to run with the bulls. And essentially how Larry and Cheryl get into this conversation. Well, you made me go horseback riding. I was doing that strictly to make you look good. But then again, that was when they used to have sex. But then again, it's like, well, Cheryl's not a prostitute like that. That was a whole funny interaction. And then now this next part, I just want to make it clear. I have no problem with transitioning. Whatever you want to be in life, that's you. But I do have a problem that I loved the Jodie Funkhauser character, and because Mayim Bialik is probably too busy with the Big Bang Theory, which I don't think she was on the Big Bang Theory when 6 years ago, last time Curb was on, which I gotta give him credit. That's an interesting way to write off the Jodie Funkhauser character. How Funk was saying that his nephew was like a son to him. Now he's got his daughter who's transitioning, which is like a son. But I don't know. I'm just gonna miss seeing Mayim Bialik, who's another. You can't go wrong with talent. She's just a fantastic actress who I'm going to miss seeing on Curb, which luckily I still have her in The Big Bang Theory. But I don't know. I like seeing people I like in as many things as possible. So then he has this conversation with the pants, which, I mean, I feel like that was making like a very small problem into nothing, and then a conversation with Leon, which I will say in previous episodes I've said that they're forcing the Cheryl character. I felt like Cheryl felt less forced, and Leon's kind of feels pointless. Like from this point on, he just feels like they're just trying to, I don't know, either widen the demographic or just bring on. He feels forced, and remember that essentially, like talking the conversation about that, about where he gets his pants from Jamaica, and then he perpetuates some stereotypes, yada 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 yada, and then Jeff's bragging about having sexually attractive realtor, saying like all the open houses he's going to, he has sex there, and also about a hotel, and Leon comes back and was listening to the whole conversation, so Larry goes back to the therapist, and he sees this whole nice gift from Cheryl about the truffles, and I didn't have a problem with that. I mean, there's no really, at least I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. That there's a patient-doctor confidentiality, and which it resulted into you getting a gift. So you only won in this situation. It's not like you told something, Larry, very intimate about yourself. You told him, I like truffles. That's not really, that's something I feel like you should be upset if it's going to result in, I mean, you didn't know he was going to get you a gift, but it resulted in a positive reaction. And I love it when people take Larry's advice, whether it's the prostitute in the previous episode as in classy. So you see like how her business went up, and how the clock, the therapist is saying how it was making his job a lot easier. So I enjoy that, and he's still trying to insist on going chair shopping because the chair is uncomfortable, and so when Jeff and Larry are talking at Jeff's house, Susie's saying like, what the hell's going on? Are you cheating on me? And Jeff uses the realtor, saying, I was in the car because I was a realtor because I was going to surprise you with the house, which realistically was the perfect excuse because you really can't say anything to that. And he meets with Lewis for lunch. So Larry shows up 20 minutes early because he's saying how Lewis always gets the good chair. Lewis ended up showing 30 minutes early. And how he's got to stare at the Richard Lewis self-portrait throughout the whole thing, and they're having an argument saying, I'm going to get there when they're open, I'm going to go there, I'm going to sleep there, I'm going to sleep in the kitchen. They're essentially going back and forth, classic Richard and Larry. And then he goes to the Funkhauser's nephew's memorial. So he sees the therapist there, and he tries to give him a hi, like hello, and then he feels that the therapist ignored him or didn't give him a well enough hi, which is exactly from the Face Painter episode of Seinfeld, where Jerry sees Alec Berg, the one who gave him the hockey tickets for the Rangers game, and George is saying, well, you're never going to get that enthusiastic hi at a funeral. It's like, you're not going to oh, you look fantastic! Which I always like when they take things from Seinfeld, just because Seinfeld is the only show that I love more than Curb. So, Larry, take as much as you want from Seinfeld because they're both yours. So you can take whatever you want from one to take to the other. So that was great. And the reason why he's there because Cheryl turned Funkhauser on him just because he's been through a lot, how Funkhauser's saying this is the worst thing that's ever happened to him, losing his nephew who's supposed to go to Stanford at such a young age. And so then he tries to bribe this usher for a good seat at first a 5, then a 20 does it, and just because he wants the good seat because he's still with the fatwa. And Susie notices Jeff is dressing better. He's got the nice three-piece suit, and he's saying like there was a sale at Barney's, and like how'd you find out? Larry told me. Larry would be the last person to know about a sale at Barney's, and Larry won't tell how he found out, just because he can pretty much see that the Dr. Bryan Cranston is right there, and essentially is like, I can't tell you, you guys are full of it, and then Larry talks to him and saying how I appreciate the confidentiality, and you're saying how Cheryl and his name in the show is Dr. Templeton are really good friends, and he doesn't want Larry to have any kind of relationship with her, which I get, because Larry's very neurotic and just didn't want that. And we finally get to in the reception. So Lewis steals Larry's seat. It's like, it's not like a Knick game. Well, probably these days. I mean, how bad the Knicks are, probably is comparable. And Larry's angry at the usher, saying, I'm never going to bribe an usher again. And he suddenly finds us after trying to get a seat next to Jeff and Susie, Dr. Templeton and his wife, and this woman who's crying to Larry, feel like very excessively with all the noise he's making. Larry can't hear Funk's speech. Then he sees this guy who's wearing a hat that Larry thinks it's someone who's carrying out the fatwa hit. So he's saying he's got a gun. Everyone leaves in a mad panic, and it turns out to be someone's friend. So then Susie and Jeff look at a nice house, and then the realtor's there. He's saying it's too expensive, which really, I mean, the house had an elevator room. Like, damn. And Susie's saying that we'll take it, and like Jeff is like, he probably just doesn't want the bed that he had a relationship in, which I wonder if they're going to set this up where if there's any remains, and Susie's like, who says this? Who says it? And then it finally leads to them like separating. And so Larry and Bryan Cranston finally go chair shopping. They find a great one, and Dr. Templeton says it's pricey. There's like, thank you so much for paying. I was like, what the hell? I'm not paying for it. And then he says, we're out of time. And that's pretty much the episode. So overall, I enjoyed the episode. Again, no episode this season has cracked my top 10 Curb episodes. But then again, Curb is a show that is my number 2 overall show of all time that I don't expect. And then if something does crack that top 10, it's something that is all-time greatness. Now, for next episode, like for the previous episode with the disturbance, we saw Kevin McArthur as the chef, and it looks like in the next episodes we're seeing Jenny McArthur from the League appear in this episode. So I wonder if this is something just with the League, or Larry's a fan of it, if it's a coincidence. But overall, liked it. If you like this video, share it, comment it, subscribe to me on YouTube at Way of Weinstein. Again, that is all. Have a good night.